We all love a good background story and origin story, and here's mine. My name is Jessie Bolin. The name of Land Kamp comes from my married and my maiden name. I really love my maiden name. It's Kamp, which is Dutch or German for rye farmers, people who settle next to rye fields. And Bolin is Irish for people who settle in the Bow River. So I took both of them, Land and Kamp, because I've always had a close connection with land. I am an agribusiness major. I grew up on a bunch of land with family, very connected. We raised a bunch of animals, showed in 4-H, did that whole thing, always had pets. You know, my mom and I have helped raise countless batches of baby kittens that, from bottle fed babies. So I've just always really been into that world, a huge gardener. Me and my best friend, we always won grand champion, reserve grand champion every year at fair because of our gardening skills. So, I really love that name, and when I was looking for a name for my business, it just seemed to go perfectly. So I'm from Camas, which is right across the river from Portland by Vancouver, and my mom always was schlepping us off to the Pendleton Woolen Mill that is in our sister city, Washougal. So I've had a close connection with wool my entire life. My best friends growing up, they had what did they have? They had a manufacturing company that had contracts with Pendleton and Jansport. So they also used a bunch of Pendleton. So it was just, that's what it is for our families that are here in, the local area, especially like Camas and Washougal. And so when I started to make things, it seemed natural out of all the materials that I wanted to work with wool. And that transition happened with, when I first moved into the city, I was really bored. I've always been on land and in more rural cities, lived way out in the middle of nowhere. And then when I went to college, my thriving metropolis was Wazoo in Pullman. And so that was as well pretty low key. And so when I moved back home and I bought a little house in Portland, I found myself bored all the time. I just miserable. And then you reach a stage that you gotta cut back your partying. You can't drink forever. So part of that was you need to find a healthy habit. What do I now do with all my time now that I'm not going to be a degenerate anymore? So for me, that was I started estate selling. And with that estate selling, I was buying a lot of home decor, bigger home pieces, and I needed pillows with them. So I started sewing pillows, but then I got really tired of always being on the road and spending all my extra time at estate sales. And so about 3 years ago, I was like, okay, I'm done with doing the vintage home decor. And I transitioned fully into making things. And I thought that I was like, okay, I'm going to wind this down. I'm totally exhausted. And then Urbanite on Grand opened up and they found me on Instagram and they're just like, hey, we've seen that you make a few bags. Would you be interested in the space? And I was like, gosh, I'm just so exhausted by this retail because this is a second job to me that I was like, I don't really know if I want to do it. But honestly, it was Urbanite bringing me in that really gave me the second breath. And I was like, oh, wow, I do have a general interest in this. And not that I have very, very basic skills because I don't have any background in retail. I don't have a design degree. I have very elemental sewing skills. So this is something that I've just had to slowly build through the years and just figure stuff out piece by piece. And also because I don't have any connections on, how to make things. And so it's just been a lot of like figuring stuff out by asking other makers and looking it up, and this trial and error that you do behind the scenes. And so it's been a really fun process, but there's so much that you know, you're always like second guessing yourself, and you're just like, you know, even basic as like learning what type of leather to use. Like, I don't know, did you know that there was a million different weights of leather, and that you need to choose the, you know, there's like a specific weight. And I actually got that from Mason of Flying Spade, that I found her through Tandy, and she was the one that started to educate me on, you know, what type of leather that I use for all of my straps for my bags. And so it's just like these little connections that, thank God for Instagram, that you're able to connect with these other social people, that you're able to help figure out how to take your creativity and make it something functional. And so, but that's always been a natural thing for me, because I have this real tenacious family who are constantly teaching themselves how to do things. My family has, you know, a sawmill, and my dad taught himself how to mill lumber, and we've built all of our own homes. And, you know, my mom's gone back to school to for to become a barber, and to just, you know, anytime that she wants to learn something new, she's always going out and seeking how she can do that. And I just really admire that. And so that same skill is embedded in me, where I don't know how I'm gonna do it, but I will find a way, even though it might take me a little bit longer. But that's just part of, you know, when you're genuinely interested in something, and you have that fire inside of you that just keeps you going. You know, it's like, I always think about, you know, the girlfriends and the friends that are like, oh, I'd really like to do so and so. You're just like, well, sweetheart, no one's ever gonna give you permission. Like, you just gotta do it. Like, no one's ever gonna tell you that you're ready or that you're good enough, and you're gonna have all these different doubts in you. But I would rather come screaming into the gates with my wings on fire, just knowing that I tried everything, whether I did it the right way or not. You have to dig in and figure out whether it's something for you, and you have to have that fire that just keeps you going. And not always, that fire doesn't stay stoked super hot all the time, and you need to take breaks. But there is something when you figure out something, like whatever your art is, and it captures you, it's gonna wrap you up tighter than you'll ever know. And your version of success is going to look so different than anyone else's. And like, my version of success has never been to be a factory producible. You know, part of the beauty of being handmade is that you can create these amazing relationships with other people, and they're seeking to solve a problem, and you have that at a very small scale of, let me figure this out for you, let's work together. And then you can transition really quickly. And that's the fun part about, you know, my version of success, is being small scale and having these very intimate relationships with these people. And, you know, you responding to them on a weekend, and them responding back to me being like, oh my gosh, like, I'm so thankful that you actually emailed me. Well, you're just like, well, I don't think that you know that, like, this is a one-woman shop. Like, there is no shipping department. There's like, all those different departments are wrapped up in one person. And so if you if you have a problem with the shipping department, that means you probably have a problem with the maker, and you have a problem with the marketing and everything else, and that's all gonna be me. But that also means that you can be very swift and reactionary on your feet when there's something that's going on that you need to address. And that's been the wonderful thing about creating these relationships, is that you're so accessible, and it really helps you genuinely connect with others. So that's my background, is like that's why I do what I do, and this is a part-time thing. Like I work with an amazing group in downtown Portland, and I'm in finance. Like I'm not in retail. I don't have a retail background. Like I work with four other guys, and we manage private wealth, and like this is my creative outlet. But here's the thing, is like all my friends that I meet that are in the same space, they all have the same thing. They all have a very similar story. And so regardless of where you are in this process at the beginning and thinking like, how am I going to make this happen, or if you're on the cusp of like quitting your job and gonna make this full time, is there's gonna be so many people that share a very similar story, that you can find mentors or be a mentee. And the maker space is very open and loving to sharing how to make things better. And I would just always encourage people, if you're interested, 9 times out of 10, reach out. Like they're gonna help you to the best of their abilities. Like I know that I've definitely ran into a few obstacles where like there's somebody might not want to be as open as you would hope with either their technique or where they get something or how they do something. But there are going to be just as many people out there that are educators. Like that's a lot of the reason why we get into this is because we are looking to educate ourselves. And so if we're looking to educate ourselves, that often translates into wanting to help other people, helping other people be educated on whatever your art is. So I would just say, feel free to reach out to anyone, and like more often than not, you will get a really positive experience. So that's my love. That's my story. And I hope that if you have any questions, that you reach out to me. And I don't have a lot to hold back on. So I'm more than willing to help you with any questions that you may have. All right, guys. Bye-bye.